The idea came about from just life events that went on in my life, and also just moving into a new city. When I moved to Chicago, I thought it was just downtown on the south side. I didn't know about all these cool neighborhoods and coffee shops and the different people and just the weirdness of it, of the Chicago, and how much passion everybody has here, and how it's a big city and it won. So I wanted to encapsulate that in a series, but also kind of have my story in there, which is kind of like part of my grieving process, I think. So doing this has really tested my filmmaking abilities, because I had no idea what I was doing, and I'm thankful about the people around me. But it's really helped me grieve in a sense. When I was developing the character Decker, who I play, I didn't want it to be me. So I tried to make him more awkward. I tried to make him different, so I didn't feel like it was just a biography on my life. I wanted to be a different thing, and his traits be amplified. But when I was writing this, I did have that thought of, you're putting yourself out there, and now people are going to ask questions about it, and I'm perfectly okay with that, of people asking questions, because I think if someone could look at my story and how I dealt with it, and I like to think I dealt with it in a positive manner, and if something like that happens in their life, they could be like, oh, look at this person who done it, who has gone through that. And I think the cool thing about Yuppies is I tried to develop each character that people could attach to one person and kind of see how their life is in this 6 episodes. So I wrote Danny based on John, who plays him. He actually just casted himself. I printed off the pilot and I gave it to him to read. And he goes, I didn't even ask him, he goes, I'll be in it. So I believe in the first script, his name was Evan. So I was like, you're not an Evan. So I did it Danny, and it made all the episodes so much easier. Sarah, who plays Vanessa, she was cultivated of a couple characters that I've seen in other shows, and kind of a mix, and she fit perfectly, and it was more her personality. And I just didn't know it at the time, that she is such a phenomenal actress. That she really played it really well. Alexa, I've known for a couple months prior to that, and I knew she could play that role. And Gideon is just, he's good. Yeah, I actually came up with the premise in college. Not all the details of it taking place in Chicago and him losing his best friend, but just 3 guys with one moving back to his hometown after something happens, losing a job or something like that. And it's always been festering in my mind, and I like telling stories based on emotion and having themes in it. And when all that stuff happened to me, that came back to light for me after I already moved here. And I've been around all these creative people here in Chicago, that just popped up back in my head. And I believe it was November when I started writing the pilot. And from there, I wrote the pilot, I'll go, okay, what am I gonna do with it? And then John read the pilot, and I was like, okay, I wanna play Evan at that time. And from there, I was like, shit, I'm gonna finish this episode. I'm gonna finish the series and maybe do it. So from there until November to January, beginning of February, I wrote it. I gave it to people to read, got notes, and did all that. But that writing process was kind of hard, because it's hard to do art if you're not in the mindset of doing it. So I've always been blessed of, like, if I put my mind to something or something's in my head, I have to do it. And I told myself too, like, the further I go, like, I can't back out of this, because I've started a million projects where they don't go anything. I swear on my computer I have 3 pages of a script that I thought was gonna go huge. So it was kind of me telling myself, keep going, so you can't back out. and that aspect. So once I did that, I talked to a couple directors and everything along those lines, and I wanted someone else to direct it, but then I just thought, if this fails, I want it to be all on me and not blame someone else. And I kind of had a vision of what I wanted, but again, I've never directed before, and all this is new to me. So I wanted to surround myself with very talented people, like Joseph, our DP, who knows shots, he has equipment, he's done experience, and I told him from day one, tell me if something's not gonna work. Like if I have an idea, say, it's not gonna work, because he's very smart like that. So I surrounded myself with really good people that could act, and that's why I left the script so open-ended of, here are your characters, here's the skeleton, here's the premise. I wrote these characters around you per se. It's improvised to a point, which that's why I wanted to get good improvisers here in Second City, where I met all these people. It was a great breeding ground for all that. I'll tell you one thing, take a minute for Christina Sanger, who's a producer. She's our media person. She made the logo. She has been a blessing in disguise. I met her 2 years ago in Indianapolis, and she has carried this to a lot. She's done so much when it comes to scheduling places to shoot, when it comes to sending out press releases, when it comes to everything, logos, putting the website together. She's been there, and then Jessica and Kate Eddy, who are producers and helped me get extras and things like that. Producers have been huge, because I didn't know what a producer did per se. I don't have a film background. I just knew what I wanted in this vision. I always looked at it as like a Trojan horse to like, we can do anything within this realm of Yuppies. So with having them around, and I never looked at myself like, when I was in college and I wanted to do something creative, I always felt like I was the smartest person in the room when it came to that, or most creative, and I knew that was bad. But when I came here to Second City in Chicago, I knew nothing compared to these people, and that was the best feeling I had, because I could trust them, and maybe I didn't see it, but they saw something in there, and we could go with it. And that's what I like about how I'm not naive enough to think that my vision is the right way. I think it's a melting pot of everybody's ways they played their character, how Joseph shot it, what colors were used, what pictures we used, the emotions we chose to do. I think it's a melting pot of all that came into this, and that's why I think it's really special. Hardest scene was in the same episode, episode 2, was that very last scene in outside of the Oriental, because you don't want to bring too much attention to yourself when you're filming those, and I have problems acting when a lot of people are looking and everything like that. So that was probably the hardest, and logistically, how we're going to shoot it and how we're going to have people walk around us, and the best way to do it, and adapting to things when you're in that environment. My favorite scene to shoot was probably the scene where I got punched. That, and then the fight scene out in the alley of episode 2, because Evan, who plays Gold Rush in that episode, so he played football for Maryland, so he's a big guy. And when he came like this close to my nose, that was terrifying. But we got to push each other in there, and Joseph did a good job of capturing it, and I think it really encapsulated the chaos that I wanted that scene in there, so it was cool. So yeah, I think the theme I want to get, and something I had to learn, was when you're dealing with depression or something like that, you're very much in an island, you don't feel emotion. So you don't see how you hurt people, and now you don't do that, you don't mean to hurt them, but you hurt them by not saying something to them, by not being there, just because you're so checked out. And then at the end, you find out that someone else had depression and has had a lot of bad stuff happen in their life, but they didn't deal with it that way. And I think that is something that, just to bring light to, that if you're going through this, it's okay to focus on yourself and focus, but also be willing of the people that are trying to reach out and help you, because they're there for a reason, and they're there because they love you, and you can't run away from everything like Decker tried to do when he moved to Chicago. It's all going to be creeping there. It's always going to be there on your mind. You can't run from your mind, but you surround yourself with people, talk to people that can really help you. And I think that's really important. And that's something personal I've done with my life, surrounding myself with wonderful people, whether it's you, Adam, or Christina, or John Love, or just Daniel, my friend. All these people are very nice and supportive, and I think that goes it goes a long way. And I think Danny and Joe do that good for Decker. I think Vanessa kind of pushes Decker out of his shell, which is always good to do when you're battling depression like Decker was. Just pushing that out is pretty big, and that's why those characters are so important to the story. And Decker I don't think is the main focus. I think the main focus is Danny and Vanessa and how they kind of break the ice and are just phenomenal people.